Hola, ¿cómo
Hola,
estás, Ricardo?
bien, ¿y tú?
Muy bien. Tell me a bit about your the Morandé. You have wines in ITATA and Maule in central Chile. Because you're very adventurous, I see, with all
Yes,
the
yes.
carbonic maceration and Baies, Sansol. Tell me about what do you think about these new varieties, especially
I will.
the Sansol, the Baies, which is an ancient variety in Chile, but now kind of being revived a bit in
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Segun is a pleasure, and Morandé I always define as a kind of weird winery because was founded not such a long time ago. It was founded in 1996 by Pablo Morandé, who is one of the, I would say, most relevant winemakers in the last 30 years in Chile. With Aurelio Montes, Pablo, I think, is one of the most important winemakers. Maybe not as successful as Aurelio in terms of sales or commercially speaking, but definitely in the path that he walk and people follow. I'm a lucky. I'm not a young winemaker anymore, but let's say the new generation that was lucky enough to appear in Chile in the 90s after a big gap of non-winemakers because many things, political reasons, whatever. So was the boom of winemaking again in Chile in the end of the 80s. Pablo was one of the last winemakers of his generation. So he was director of Conchitoro, so he started working for more than 20 years in Conchitoro, developing Don Melchor since the beginning until he quit in 96. So a big background in a, let's say, new winery. But Pablo was always been, because he still worked with us, like truly, you know what, joking with winemakers, said, "Oh, you're an artist," and they do it like nobody believed that as a winemaker, but definitely Pablo is a sort of artist guy. That's why he's more involved in terms of the beauty of what he's doing, more than the that's not good, but anyways, is the way that it is, more than looking for the last line, of numbers. If financially sometimes not working, and we do some certain wines that is more for pleasure than for other reasons. Well, Pablo started working in Casablanca in the coastal area in 1982. Before that, you should know that there's no vineyards in the coastal area in Chile, commercially speaking, because in ITATA is definitely a coastal area, but not as we thought now, cold climate. So he made the bet, planted by himself in Casablanca, and opened the window for the whole new valleys in the coast, let's say Lleida and so on. So that's one of our first step. And then because his experience in Conchitoro, in Maipo, all our Bordeaux varietals, Cabernet Sauvignon, Franc, whatever, is in Maipo Valley, in the so-called high Maipo, the foothills of the Andes near the Maipo River. We truly believe that this the kind of alluvial soils and the type of weather we used to have, at least, is the percentage of clay, gravels, etc. It fits perfectly for that kind of varietal. So our Gran Reservas and our Bordeaux varietals come from there. And also, Pablo Morandé, one of the side of his mother family come from Maule. So he born in Cauquenes, is the main town in the area, and he always grow with Carignan, País, Sansó, etc. So that's why those are our main three regions where we develop Morandé. But said that, when Pablo Morandé started in 96, he always was looking for new areas. The first, actually, Sansó from ITATA, bottle, properly saying Sansó from ITATA, was Pablo's Aventura wine. That was the name of the wine in 1997. Also Portugués Bleu, Romano or César Noir. This Aventura range was a known varietal from Chile, trying to show to the, at that time, local and some exports that Chile is not only the 4 big varietals. At that time, you can imagine it was a complete failure because in the 90s, everybody was looking for more big, muscular wines, more ripeness. And you show Sansó from ITATA was completely, and nobody understand that. So we relaunched 10 years ago this project as an associated project with the other winemakers of the company. So Morandé have always been has these 2 souls: the classic stuff, let's say Cabernet, and the, let's say, more ancient or grapes that is a little more unknown from Chile. That's maybe answer your question. We always believe on that. To be honest, Pablo never believed too much about País. He believed more in Sansó, but I'm a big fan of País, and I'm developing for the last 10 years different vineyards that we own or we more rented. It's more than rented because one of our winemakers, his family own a property in ITATA since 1905, and we take care about this property from them. So yep, it's a part of our way of life or way of winemaking, these varietals.
I want to also ask you about the vintages, because we know 2020 for Central Chile, for Maipo, for Maule, it's kind of quite a hot and dry vintage, right? But ITATA, what's the vintage like in ITATA in 2020?
Well, 2020 was by far the hottest, not the driest, because in winter it was a lot of rain, but it was kind of on average. But in terms of temperature of the summer and autumn, it was the hottest by far. 2017 was the one that was on top, and then 2020 beat them. ITATA is, if you go near the, let's say, Guarilihue area, that's a name. So I don't know if you ever been there, but
no, not yet.
You will hear more often Guarilihue from ITATA. This is a hilly geography. And it's quite, let's say, temperatures a little lower, but still you reach 30, 32 degrees maximum in summer, but it drops quite fast at night. So 2020 was a warm vintage also in ITATA. Obviously, much less than Central Valley, but still.
It's still warm. It's still warm. Yeah. But you said it wasn't that dry. Do you know how much rain? Did you have a good amount of rain for 2020 in ITATA?
Just to give you an idea, the average of ITATA is around 700 millimeters to 800, and that vintage was around 400 and 450. And this vintage, this one was the driest by far. Just to let you know that in Santiago, in Maipo, used to rain 300 millimeters, and this vintage was 80 millimeters. Yeah,
that was like less than 100. I talked with a few Concha y Toro winemakers too, like Enrique. They showed me the la cifra, the numbers of the vintage. Very, very dry in Central in Maipo.
Not as hot as we thought. February was quite warm.
But it was actually not bad. It was not actually too bad for most winemakers.
Yes.
And the harvest was early, and people, because you had COVID and you don't know what is happening, with the outbreak of COVID in March and April. So you harvest early. You don't have too many problems with lacking, labor, human resource.
Not big deal at all.
No big deal. That's actually the bright side of it, the silver lining of it. So tell me about the harvest in ITATA in 2020.
Yes, I usually pick in March, and 2020 was not exception, but early March. Warm, cold vintages like 2018, I did in the early April. But to be honest, the Sanso have a window quite close in terms of acidity, and drop quite fast. So it's quite narrow, and I'm trying to be very careful in the picking moment. So I'm doing as early as I can. Mid-March, early March is the best to me. Mid-March in 2020 was mid-March.
For my poll, or COLCHAGUA, I think 2021 was a kind of cooler, a pretty cooler vintage, right? Would you say that?
No,
not really.
Not really. I know this is like doctors. You ask different winemakers, and we will tell you different things.
Of course.
But numbers never lie. And if you see the day degrees, you will see, was cooler than 2020 and 2017, but definitely it was a warm vintage.
Still warm vintage, but relative. I mean, if you compare with 2020, there won't be any warm vintage, right? If it's hot and dry for most part of Chile. Maybe the coast is better. I found 2020 was kind of Casablanca struggled a little more with the Pinot and Chardonnay, and you get that kind of sweet and sour character from Pinot. That's what we don't want, right? It's kind of it's not classic, and it's not classy anymore.
You already tried our Chardonnay and Pinot Noir Gran Reserva?
I tried the Pinot.
It's interesting to compare with because for the both Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, you have the Malleco, try again, different climate, much cooler, and Casablanca, and the differences are huge. Mainly, to me, is the sweetness of the fruit. The thing that you're talking about.
Exactly. It's like Casablanca, it's really fruity. It's kind of getting really fruity in Casablanca. Well, he's talking about like the Traiguén. Your brother also make wine in Traiguén and Baettig, right? I just talked to him 3 weeks ago, I don't know. It was like more elegant, but it's still kind of in a pretty rich style, but there's not a lot of fruit sweetness. Something we don't really want for, especially subtle varieties like Pinot Noir. You don't want that sweet and sour combination of both.
In Pinot Noir, the main thing, more than Casablanca issue and climate, obviously, Pinot Noir of Casablanca, Lleida, let's say the old valleys, the coastal area, the problem with that is the vegetal material, the clones that we have. We have all the young clones, most of them full of virus. And that's the main reason, because our Pinot Noirs have the elegance and typicity that you, or at least I understand, and you found it in other areas like Malleco, different climate, but still new vines, new clones, free of phylloxera, free of virus. And you can see the grapes better shape, finish the maceration, the maturity in much better shape, and not raising small berries, raising that increase the alcohol and give you marmalade flavors. That's the old clones, and that's the big problem that we have in Casablanca, and that's why most of the companies are replanting in Casablanca. Ourselves are planting more than 15 hectares for the last 2 years and continue doing, because we need to change this old vegetal material. And I really believe that you will see the difference between Casablanca, the new ones, and the old ones. Still, it's not as cold as Traiguén or southern regions, but will be much more subtle or laid back and not sweet and marmalade character. And remember that.
Yeah, okay. That's good. That's good to know. It's good to know.
Yeah.
What clones do you have in the south?
Mostly the same that we used to have in Casablanca, but new ones, clean from virus. So that means 777, 8. This is new for us. 828. The selection of Guillaume, Gevrey-Chambertin, and Bougeot. So different. Some of them are different clones. Some are the same but clean from the nursery.
Okay.
And you will see easily, Zekun, when you visit the vineyards. The old clones get red and almost brown red really fast in January, February. The other remain green and then become yellow, and then you lose the leaves.
Yeah.
The other early, it's leaf roll. It's nothing new.
It's leaf roll. Yeah. So the big problem is the leaf roll virus, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the important thing to understand about Pinot from Casablanca. And in Chardonnay, I'm trying to avoid the sweetness doing fermentation with the skins. Not maceration. I mean, fermented, 40% of the total blend is fermented with the skin. Trying to cut a little the sweetness.
Where? In
Chardonnay.
In Casablanca.
In Casablanca, yeah.
How is the market, seeing this, the new trend of Mediterranean varieties like Syrah, Grenache, Carignan, and also the revived Bailly's, Sansol maybe not. It's like, how does the market see the comeback of the revived varieties and also the Mediterranean grapes?
I will divide it in two. The answer of wine writers, people who have certain knowledge of the wine, let's say, industry. The answer is super good. I mean,
yeah, I know. that's. But
no,
how about
all over the markets? If you mean the consumers, they are very curious, and they are much open than when we start doing this 25 years ago. At least in Morandé, there was no answer for that. Now we are selling those wines, and that's a very good sign, because previously no way. So. And we are communicating better, and it's easy to communicate now than 25 years ago, social medias, etc. So I think this is a good opportunity, and we are already feeling the good response, the answer of the people in local market, in big markets like Brazil. We are selling those wines definitely UK also. We are selling those wines. Northern, the Scandinavian countries, we already sell Pais and Carignan. So Mediterranean grape, Chile have the climate for that. No question about it. We didn't have the varietals. Now we have it. We're learning. We're doing better and better, I guess. I believe. So yeah, definitely it's a good thing for us. And diversity is one of the Chilean flagships. It's different varietals, different climates, and we're working on it. At least Morandé is one of the companies medium size that always been pushing that. So we're happy with it.
Yeah, you're the guys, definitely. You're the one who pushes hard at the diversity of all everything in Chile, because you probably don't find too.
No, plus Zekun, we just built a new winery for that. Small one, underground, 2 levels underground. We put clay pots, amphoras underground. We have the lagares, concrete tanks, troncoconic, etc. So we're working on it, and we built a small new winery focused on that.
Keep up the good job, because this is like the future of Chile. We think. I would believe that the Mediterranean freshness for Chile is a big thing. It's very important now, a very important aspect for Chile, because it used to be like Cabernet Sauvignon, Carmenere. Now I think it's getting there. The Syrah, the Grenache, and everything is showing really strong. So yeah, we will see. And also you guys are on the Bais and Sansol, the more laid back, cheerful, drinkable wines, which I think will be very popular in the wine. Would I say aesthetics, right? Because we're now people are talking about drinkability, if they can drink a bottle. So that's a lot of promises there, right?
Well, I'm glad to hear you about that, because we need people that with your knowledge to also to communicate that.
it's interesting to show what Chile has with the diversity. What is interesting, right? Because nowadays you have that so many interesting wines. That's a new wave for Chile, and that can be very important too in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a commercial.
Just to finish from my side I always try to transmit that in the case of Morandé, it's not just a fashion that now País and Sanso is in fashion and we make it. We start doing that many years ago, with not successful because we were too ahead. Pablo Morandé was too ahead at the time. But it's part of our heritage and footprint of Morandé since the beginning. So we're super happy that now there is more room and possibilities for this type of wines too.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. It was a very interesting talk. So gracias. Chao. Que tenga un lindo noche.
Gracias igualmente. Buen día. Chao.
Bye.